All right, so it is time to play some Odd Realm. So the version we're going to be playing is 10.0.2, the Sacred Scrolls. This is the second fix to the beta update version 0.10. Now, there are still plenty of bugs. You'll find some even in the tutorial that I do here, but it's not a big deal because this game is very playable and it's a lot of fun. The system, however, has changed. So if you are returning to the game after a while away, you might find some things very, very different. If you're new to the game, hopefully this will be enough to get you started and on your way. So let's create a new game here. I'm going to choose the humans. The two playable races are the humans and the ancients. I'm going to choose the humans just because I know them the best and they are the easiest to understand kind of off the bat. You can change your realm name up here. You can use a particular seed, change your world size. I'm going to keep everything default as we're going through setting this stuff up. This is mostly just about gameplay. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to choose one of these taiga locations. I'm not going to do forest because the trees are a little crazy in the growth right now. And I do want to be by the coast. So I'm going to find a nice coastal area. This looks really good. You can see over here the Untamed Flats taiga zone here. It's a mild temperature. And this is going to be an easy start for us. So I'm going to click there to settle. And I'm going to just do the default Pioneer method. Going to keep the default name. 5 settlers, bunch of items. I'll talk about some of them as we go. So as it's loading up here, it's going to set us up in an area and we can move around the map to find out what the area looks like. But some of the things you want to look for are things like water and trees, and then the other resources that are in the ground like this coal, and then there will be some other things like copper here. You'll find 10 sometimes, but it tends to be down a few levels. But that's all good. I'm going to start off by placing my initial start block right here. And this is where my settlers are going to spawn in. And there they are. Now I'm going to pause time for a moment so I can get started and show you some of the things that are happening. I have 5 settlers. I'm going to look at them just to see who they are. So first off, I have Ria Ordain. She is a forester, and she has the following skills: logging, survival, forestry, combat, and carrying skill enabled. I have the carpenter, who has woodworking, stoneworking, metalworking, removing, and carrying enabled. I have my stone mason, who has woodworking, stoneworking, metalworking, removing, and carrying enabled. And that's going to become important in a moment. You'll see why. I have my miner, who has mining, melee fighting, and carrying enabled. And I have my farmer, who has harvesting, planting, and carrying enabled. Now, my farmer here, he also has a condition, which is a trait that says big boned. So he has this big boned trait. If I hold down control, I can look at that and see what that means. So that means that he has a plus 100 to his health. Trait big boned, they are just an absolute unit. People stop and stare. Now, anytime you see this tooltip that has this little menu plus button there, you just hold down control and it will allow you to see more information about that thing that you are looking at. So those are my settlers. Now, before I get too far with this, you'll notice I have all of these crates here that came along with them. I like to actually just make this a starting area that is a storage room. So I could set up a room on it, but I want to build something around it. Now, if I hit the B button, you'll notice that I have some build options. I can start a fire. I can create a fire pit, create a rope basket, a torch, or a rope ladder. I cannot, however, create a wooden block yet. And there's a reason for that. In this update, we were introduced to the Saga panel. If I hit H, it will bring up the Saga window. Now, the Saga window, which will probably open down here on the side for you, I have moved to the middle. And if you want to move these windows, you just mouse over them, hold down the middle mouse wheel, and then move it, and you can move it around to wherever you want. So I'm going to put it right in the middle here so we can look at it. This is our research and blueprints window. So our research is the things that we have learned as settlers. Now, as your settlers work, you will get more of these things called tomes. So right now you'll see I have 2 tome of industries. And I want to get this woodworking research. So I have the basics, which cost 1 tome of industry, but I started off with that as a human, and I'm going to get this woodworking tome right here. And I'm going to spend one of these 2 tomes of industry to get it. So I click on it. And over here, you'll see it gives me access to wood plank block. There we go. Wood door, wood gate, wood hatch, fiber sleeping mat, wood bed, wood bookcase, a large cage, a medium cage, a small cage, fence, seat, stool, table, carpenter's table, clay pot, barrel, wood bin, wood cabinet, wood crate, wood ladder, a whole lot of wood stuff. Wood pickaxe, that'll be important too. So I'm going to spend 1 tome of industry to learn this. And now you'll see I gained 26 new blueprints that are available to me. I could also gain the fishing research, but I'm going to hold off on that because I don't really spend a lot of time fishing until later. I have campfire and I have 1 tome of cooking. So I'm going to actually make some complex meals eventually. And you'll see here the list of complex meals and the rooms that are added. I'm going to scroll down a little more, and in the agriculture screen, I'm going to grab this well because I do want to be able to gather water, and you'll see why that becomes important later. Unfortunately, I do not start with any tomes of Arcana because this library is fantastic, but I'll just have to do without. And I want to kill stuff, but I want to kill it from a distance, so I'm going to grab these basic ranged weapons in case I get into a fight or something like that. Now that's a good start for the Saga window, and I will be coming back here often as I gain more of these tomes, and I'll explain to you how those are gained as we play along. So you'll see now when I go to my build menu, I have new blueprints. So I have this wood plank block blueprint. I'm going to grab it, and I'm going to set it to priority 0. So if I want to set different priorities here, I'm going to set priority 0, and this is how I do kind of blueprints for my buildings as I go along. And I'm going to drag along here and create a room. And to empty that room, I'm going to hit Control, and it's going to make the walls around that room, not the whole block itself. This would make all wood blocks. This makes a room with wood block walls. So you'll see there I have that room with wood block walls, and then I can make a doorway entrance. Now I do want to make this a storage room. I want to actually have it be functional. And the great thing about it is now that I can, instead of zones, like the previous version had, this has rooms. And so what I do is I hit R to bring up the room panel. Now down here you'll see the room window, and this room window has a list of all the different rooms. And what I want to do right now is create a storehouse. I'm going to click on the storehouse. I'm going to come over here to the map. I'm going to click and drag the area that I want this storehouse to be, which is this area encompassing all of these crates and barrels. And now you'll see over here in the menu, I have a storehouse. Now this is great and all, but to do anything with this storehouse, I actually need to set it up. So I'm going to hit G to bring up my room management window. A lot of information here. We're going to ignore a lot of it for right now. The couple of things we do want to do is make sure that we have some owners. And in order to do that, it says haulers. So I want to look through this list of owners right here, and I'm going to see what it says. It says the function is going to be this stockpiling. People will auto join to this room. You'll notice nobody's there yet because time is paused. It said limited to unique. I'm going to untick this. I untick it for almost all of my rooms early on because I want my 5 settlers to actually be able to do more than just 1 or 2 things. I don't want it to be family owned because that means the only people in the same family are going to use it. Right now, this little block says all races will be able to use this room. It's limited to the carrying skill, which is probably good for a storage area. And the profession requirements are listed as all. So I'm going to leave that. I'm also going to leave the stockpile to have all permissions set on it, and it can store either on the ground, in the bins, or whatever. It doesn't matter. Either way, it'll work. And this is my storehouse 1. I can rename it from up here. So I'm going to change the room name and say S1 storage. And I like to just list them that way because then they'll alphabetize themselves. Now you'll notice when I hit space, this little mark here and this mark here are going to be populated. And it should be all 5 of my settlers because they all have the carrying skill enabled. So every single one of them should get added to this room as an owner group. And they can go in and out of this room and grab anything that they need to out of this room. It actually just means that they will run jobs from this room. So it's not like they're not going to be able to get to this room if they need an item from it. Okay, so there we go. That's the storage room taken care of. And I'm going to close the room management here. And I'm going to hit space and let it run for a little bit. They're not really doing anything yet because I need to assign them some jobs. So I'm going to move out of the room management there, and I'm going to assign a few jobs. So first things first, I'm going to blueprint a little bit more of my villa here. I have this kind of standard design that I run for the villa. So I'm going to use the wood blocks and design the rest of my villa here. There. Okay. Whoops. If I can drag my mouse correctly today. There we go. And another room here. Okay. And that should be good for starting off that side. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to create another couple of rooms here. Now, one of the most important rooms that I need is a room that's going to allow me to feed my settlers. And so in order to do that, I'm going to actually teach you the whole room mechanics by creating an empty room. So I'm going to grab this new thing called an empty room here. I'm going to place it in this block right there. And you'll notice it says that it's empty to it's open to occupants, and we're going to fix all of this up. So first off, we have this owner group that says occupants. Now, it's also listed as family only. That's one of the things we're going to turn off because I want anybody who can to use this, and I also don't want it to be unique, so I'm going to turn both of those off to start off with. So what I want this room to be is a fire pit. I want it to be an area where my settlers can go and cook the food that they gather, either that they brought with them or that they grow themselves. In order to do that, I need to add a function to this room. So this room currently has no function. So I'm going to go up here to this little button, and I'm going to hit add room function. And then I'm going to pick the room function that I want. So what I want is a fireplace. And I'm just going to hit the add button, and there we go, fireplace. And now it tells me I have a prop requirement. I need to create a fire pit inside of this fireplace before this room is usable. A couple of other things to note here, though. If I start it up, nobody's going to join this room, or everybody's going to join this room, and that's a problem. I don't want everybody to join this room yet. I want only a particular group to join it. And I also have a problem here where there are no functions active for this room. So I need to change this. Since this is an empty room, I'm going to add this function. Now, anytime you add a function, you want to check over here and make sure that that function is represented in the owner groups, that those owner groups are going to actually do something when they join this room. So I'm going to hit this function button right here, and I'm going to enable the fireplace. So this group called occupants is going to use the fireplace function in this room. Now, if I hit space again, you'll see it's going to populate 3 owners because I have it set all races, all skills, and all professions. But I don't want all races, all skills, and all professions. I only want people who can actually cook things. And I'm going to click the skill requirements here, and I'm going to undo everything. Now, I'm not going to do profession requirements cook because I don't have any cooks yet. I don't want to make a cook. I want all of my people to be the professions that they are, but I want them to also serve some other functions. So in here, I'm going to put for the skill requirements, they must have the survival skill and the cooking skill. And now when I close back out, you'll see the skill requirements are survival and cooking. So anybody who has either one of these skills will join this room. Now you'll see one of these 3 will drop off, and there will only be 2 once I start it back up. Only 1, because only 1 has the survival skill, and that's my forester, and I'm going to need to enable that on other people. So I also want to make this have a storage, this room have a storage area, so I can come right back up here to add a stockpile, and I'm going to change the item category permissions, deselect everything, and I'm going to set this up so that the food can be stored in this room. I'm going to leave the storage preferences anywhere for right now. It doesn't have to be in barrels or anything because I don't have any barrels to put in there. You need to take care of this problem that there is no prop, and I will go ahead and do that now. Close it out and hit escape. I'm going to hit B to build, go to the props, and grab a fire pit. Now, if you've forgotten where your room is, there's a really handy thing that you can do. If you just mouse over any given block, you can see in the tooltip on the bottom left what room that block is. So I'm moused over this area right here, and you'll notice it says empty 2. Now I need to change the name obviously, but this room is where I'm going to put the fire pit. So I'm going to click right in there, and my fire pit is going to appear. Now it appeared as priority 1. So I'm going to change that up to a priority 3. So I'm going to hit priority 3, make sure I got the fire pit selected, click that again, and it's going to be priority 3. So this is the first thing my builders are going to do. They're going to run over here, and they're going to build this fire pit. I'm going to go back to the room management window. Instead of naming this empty 2, I'm going to name it C1 fire pit. I call them C1 because those are my consumable rooms. That way all my consumables will stay together. My cookhouse, my fire pit, my well house. You'll see those in a minute too. And then I'm going to close out. So now my fire pit is over here. My C1 fire pit is over here. And that fire pit will be built in there by my guys as soon as we get started up. There's one more room I need that's really important. Hit R, and I'm going to make a workshop. Build the workshop in this room right here. And then hit G to go into the room management. You'll notice for the workshop, I can have a fireplace in the workshop, but the function for the fireplace isn't set. So I'm just going to actually delete that because I don't need it. So the function for the wood mill is going to be enabled. Anybody who joins this room is going to have a profession requirement of carpenter, but you'll remember that both my stonemason and my carpenter had the woodworking skill enabled, which will allow them to use the wood mill. So I'm actually going to change this. I'm going to turn it on to everybody, and I'm going to change it to the skill requirements needed, deselect all, and set up woodworking. So people who have the woodworking skill, which is going to be 2 of my settlers, are going to join this room and perform the functions of this room as soon as I get all these items in it. I'm also going to set up a stockpile in here and just set it to tools, gear, and refined materials. And then that way it will store some of the tools and gear that are made in this room directly in here. If I start time up, you'll see 2 people should join. It'll be my stonemason and my carpenter. Perfect. I do want to fix this fire pit issue because I want 2 people to work in there. So I'm going to hit T again to bring up my settlers. And you'll see that I have right now my forester has the survival skill, but I also want to give her the cooking skill. And my farmer is going to get both the survival and cooking skill as well. And they will both be joining that room to work on it as needed. So I'm going to hit X, and now I should have everything ready to go. I do need to build some things into this workshop room. So the things I need to build are in the props and the storage section. So I'm going to grab a wood seat, a wood carpenter's table, and a wood cabinet. I'm going to place them in here. I can rotate the props by hitting the prop rotation, and then rotate it so that the cabinet's up against the wall and the seat looks like it's actually facing the desk. And then I want to upgrade the priority of these because these are all priority 1, but I want them to happen right after this fire pit. So since I placed them with just the 1 priority, I need to upgrade their priority. And I can do that by coming down to this job priorities button down here, and then coming back up and just clicking on those. I want to click them until they're priority 2. So that should give my builders something to do really quickly. Now I need to set up jobs for my miner, which I want him to mine out all of these. I don't need the void crystal yet. I'm going to mine out all of these boulders because I am going to need some stone sooner than later to do a few of the things that I need to do to get started. Don't need the void stone. Grab these stones over here. I can click and drag. And I also want him to dig out. I knew that was because that was highlighted that color. I knew that there was a boulder there for me to be able to mine. I also want him to dig out the space underneath this area right here so that I have some dirt. And then I typically also go down here. Oh, almost. And create a small room that's going to be the entrance to my main mines. And we'll possibly get to that in another video. So here we go. These are all things to mine. I'm actually going to cancel this one. Right click on it, cancels it. I don't need to dig up the void crystal yet. That'll be for later. I just sell those to the merchants anyway. So that's my miner taken care of. Now I need to also set up jobs for my forester. And I'm going to have him just hack down these logs here. I'll just go ahead and get all that taken care of. That way the wood will be good to go. And then the last thing I'm going to do is set up something for my farmer to do, which I set up a room. I'm going to go to a farm. Now the farm is the trickiest one to get started until you understand what you're doing with it. So I'm going to take a farm, and I'm actually going to set it up right here. And I'm going to show you why. I'll surround it with something in just a minute. But here's a cool thing. The farm is still selected, and I have the farm built here, and I can add spaces to that farm. So I can make a rectangular room for the farm. And so I'm going to add these 3 spaces. I'm going to put crates in those spaces so that the farmer can use this area and then have crates in those spaces. Because you'll notice that there's missing props. And again, when I go to G, missing props are crates. So here we go. In the room management for the farm, there are some issues. First off, you'll notice I have 4 owner groups, 3 functions, and 0 stockpiles. Now, I'm going to change that because right now there's going to be a problem. When I start this up, you're going to notice that I'll have 1 owner pop in here who's a farmer, and then I'll have all 5 of my villagers pop in here. So just watch for a second. See, there you go. All 5 of my villagers are there. You go, well, why are all 5 of your villagers there? They are not all farmers. And the issue isn't that they're farmers. It's that there are 4 owner groups. So if I scroll down through this owner groups menu, you'll see I have shepherds. There's obviously no shepherds, but there's this section called animals. And since every one of the settlers is an animal, they all get lumped into this group right here. I do not need this right now. I don't have any animals on this embark with me, so I'm just actually going to delete that. This is not a forester's area, so I'm going to delete that as well. And there's no need for shepherds in this area either. So I'm going to limit this down to this 1 owner group of farmers. The function is for it to be a garden. I have a garden here, so I don't need the animal pen or the arboretum. And now I have a garden. I'm actually going to rename this to F1 crops. And I like to plant my cookable crops in a different plot than my fruit crops. And there's lots of reasons for that, but really I just want to have a little bit more ownership over which things are getting planted. Now, again, there's the profession requirements of farmer. You can leave it like that if you want to, or for later use, you can set it up that anyone can join it as long as they have the planting skill and the harvesting skill right there. And I like to do that just because in case I have a laborer later on that I want to join it, I can add them too. I also want to put a stockpile in here, and I'm going to eliminate everything except for seeds. So the seeds will be stored in here. You'll notice I do need at least 1 crate to be able to start the jobs in here, and that will, I'll go ahead and start those jobs in a minute, but let me get this crate built. So exit out and then build. We're going to make 3 crates. So I'm going to come in here until I get to the bottom. So there's my F1 crops right there, there, and there. I'm looking at my tooltip just to know that the F1 crops section is, or room is selected. So those will all be built, and I do want those to be rank 2. So just as important as these things right here. And then I can start the jobs once those crates get built. So I'll just keep an eye on that as it goes. Now I'm going to let it run. Speed up time so that they can move. There you go. My fire pit is ready. My workshop is just about ready, and my farm is ready. So I'm going to hit G and start up some jobs. Now I have the fire pit, and I am going to set up the fire pit to actually do a few jobs. Now you'll notice when I click on the jobs, time pauses, and that's a good thing because you can get a little lost in this menu and lose some items while you're in here. So it pauses time just to make sure that you have a snapshot of what is available to you at the moment. I'm going to move down to these items that I can cook, enable them to be cooked, and then I'm going to cook what I have. I'm not going to set up a continuous job menu because these auto queues are only about the threshold job count. So they are about the job counts that are being active. And I'll explain that in a minute once I get to the farm. So right now I have 5 cabbages. I'm going to cook 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cabbages. I have 10 carrots. I'm going to cook 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 carrots. And then I have also some broccoli. Whoops, only 10 of them. And I have potatoes, which I believe I have 10. These are the things I embarked with. I have 10 wheat. And I'm going to cook all of that to start off. And I'm only going to cook what I have, and as I gain more food, I will cook more food. So that job is set up, and you'll notice those automatically started. Now these numbers that show up, they are very interesting. So what I have here is 8 and 2. That means that there are 8 queued jobs for broccoli, and there are 2 broccoli jobs in the world placed. What does that mean? So if I look here, at this fire pit, you'll see that there are all these little blue jobs around the fire pit. Now, there are 9 spaces for my fire pit. That means that 9 jobs can be placed in the world simultaneously for the fire pit. And so right here you have a roasted potato. Somebody's picking up the requirements to roast the potato, so they're going to run over here to the crates, grab the potato, run back over to the fire pit, and cook it. The ones that are blue and say like cabbage roasted ready, that means that the items are available and someone is set up to be able to do the job. If for whatever reason you run out of the item or the job gets created and then the item disappears because it's used by something else, the job will turn red and you can cancel it. If I hit J to open up the job menu, you can actually see these jobs here, but you can see these jobs in this list over here. So I have 2 cabbages, 2 carrots, 2 broccolis, 2 potatoes, and a boiled wheat. 2, 4, 6, 8, 9 jobs in this spot right here. If I wanted to cancel one, I just right click on it. So I'm going to cancel this cabbage right here, and it's going to repopulate itself as soon as I start time back up. And you'll see, well, actually it stuck in a wheat because I have a wheat in that list, and it's going to just get all of these until they're all finished cooking. Now, the great advantage of this is I can actually set up job priorities. So let's say I wanted this wheat to be cooked first. I can make it so that that wheat gets boiled quickly. If I'm running low on cooked food, which is good because my settlers need the cooked food to be able to actually eat better. It's better for their nutrition. Then I can set up this boiled wheat to be a priority 3 job. Okay, so let's go to one of my other buildings. We're going to go to this workshop here. And one of the things I want to create is a wooden pickaxe. I'm just going to create one because that's all I need. And really, that's almost all I'm going to do with this workshop the entire time that I am playing in this video here. And then the last one I'm going to do is go to this crops farm, and I'm going to set up an auto job. Now, I am going to set up a harvest job, and I want, whenever there's something to harvest in this farm, I want it to be done. So I'm going to set an auto queue threshold. I'm going to say I want 1 job to be created. That's what this arrow does. Whenever there is less than 1 job active. So I want 1 harvest job to be created whenever there is less than 1 harvest job active in the world. And that way, it's going to queue up this 1 whenever there are fewer than 1 in the world created. So that means that the farmer is going to farm anything that is inside of this room right here. So whenever the farmer checks this room, if there's anything that's in here to farm, he's going to set up a farm job. And we'll see what that looks like in just a minute. I'm going to bring up the J menu, and you'll see these are carrying or mining jobs. There are some drop item jobs here. These are pickup item jobs. These are drop item jobs. These are mining jobs. These are logging jobs. And if I let it start, what you'll see is right here, a little harvest job popped up because this myrtle grass is all harvestable. There we go. We have our first tome of industry. Now, these tomes of industry are created whenever our settlers level up. So the settlers, especially the carpenter and the stonemason, when they level up, they will create these, they have a chance to create these tomes of industry. Go back into our Saga menu, you'll see I need 2 tomes of industry to be able to get to this stonework level right here. Now I need 1 more tome of industry. I've got 1, and this one was just created, so it'll populate in a minute, and I'll be able to get the stonework right here, and that's going to be important for some of the other things I do. And then we'll just let this run for a moment and see how everything settles out. We got everybody busy. Nobody's idling. They're all having a little bit of something to do. Now, one last thing I'll do. I talked about this myrtle grass here. This myrtle grass tends to grow. As when it's mature, it will spread. And I don't want that for my farm. I want my farm to be dirt, because if the myrtle grass grows over, it will mature and it will cause my farmer to harvest the space. It's like weeds, basically. So I'm going to build around my farm a wood plank barrier, and I'm just going to hold down Control to make a barrier, and then that is my entire farm. It is going to be encased in a wood plank barrier, and it's going to prevent that myrtle grass from growing across into my farm. And then I also have now a wooden pickaxe that is on the ground. To get that equipped, I'm going to hit the U button to bring up the uniforms menu. Now you can, if you want to, place these uniforms directly on the characters. I only have 5 settlers right now, so it's not a big deal. But eventually I'm planning on having more. I want to get up to this 99 number. So I'm going to delete all of these default uniforms and create a new uniform for each profession with this P button right here. I'm going to scroll up until I find the carpenter. And then I'm going to take in this carpenter uniform right here. I'm going to grab the cloth vest, the cloth pants, and the cloth boots just to place it on him. Now, every single carpenter that joins my facility is going to have this same uniform, which is great. But I need it for all my other guys, so 4 more times. Now, what I want to do is I want to take this carpenter. I'm going to copy this uniform right here. I'm going to click on the farmer and paste it. Copy the farmer's uniform, click on the miner, paste it, copy the miner's uniform, go to stonemason, paste, and then one more time for the forester. Now I'm going to go back up to the miner, and I'm going to add one more thing to him. So I've got the miner selected here. I'm going to go to the 2-handed items. I'm going to find that wooden pickaxe, drag it, drop it on him, and he's going to equip it. The uniforms are set, but now I need to assign them. So I'm going to go up to this top tab here to assign uniforms. Again, we have all of the individual uniforms. Going to delete them all. I'm going to add new uniform assignments for each profession. And I don't have to do anything else. That's it. Because now if you look through, the forester has cloth vest, cloth pants, cloth boots. The miner has cloth pants, cloth vest, cloth boots, and a pickaxe. And now if I close out of this, you'll see my miner will eventually run over and grab that wooden pickaxe. It takes him a moment to realize that he's got it available over there to him. There she goes. She grabbed it and she's sleeping, but now she's getting back to work and she'll be a little bit faster. So that's pretty much it. This should give you a good start. One thing I will say is for the farm, you want to make sure that you have it completely cleared. And if this myrtle grass is not mature, it will not be harvested. So you see like these 2 blocks right here of myrtle grass are not mature. What I can do for that is hit J, clear, remove. I'm going to set it to priority 3 because otherwise they'll never do it. They'll just ignore it forever. And then my workers, my stonemason and my carpenter will come over and they'll dig up that myrtle grass for me. I do not get the resources for that, but it's really not a big deal in this case because the myrtle grass, I end up selling the seeds for it anyway, and I kind of hate that it hangs around. That should get you started. For the most part, that is how you set everything up and get ready to go. Good luck with your game, and I hope that you enjoyed this tutorial.